So, podcasts have become very popular, and I don't really have a setup, and I've been very inspired by some of my favorite podcast hosts. So here we are today, and I am bringing you some rants to let you know that you're really not alone, because I do find comfort in podcasts, listening to people talk and hearing people go through similar experiences or similar dilemmas, and knowing that I'm not alone and it's gonna be okay. So here you go. Welcome to this little talking point. I really want to discuss careers today and teenagers and careers, because I turned 16 a little bit over a month ago, and I have known what I wanted to do since I was probably 5 or younger. And I started doing that 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. I began taking classes and really pursuing it. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that, I guess, because, yeah. So since I was 5 years old, and I remember the moment exactly, I was finally allowed to watch Disney Channel. And it was like the thing that all of the cool kids were watching, and all of the kids were watching Disney Channel, and I was not yet allowed to watch it. I was my parents' first child, so, you get to see everything a little bit later than everybody else, or your younger siblings at least. And I remember sitting on my couch, and my dad had talked to his friend who had two daughters, and they're older than me. And he'd asked him if the show would be appropriate for like a little kid, and he was like, yeah. So that day I watched my very first Disney Channel show, and it was Girl Meets World. I remember it so vividly, and once I got into that, I started to ask about more shows that were airing at the time. Jessie, Liv and Maddie, and I was like, oh my god, I really love this. And I think it was when I watched Jessie a few days later that I realized that from Zari Ross, I was like, whoa, she's close in age. We weren't close in age. We were not that close in age. I was 5. She was like 9, 10, probably older than that. And I was like, wow, I want to do this. And before then, I had been a dancer for years, or a year at that point. But I had, since that day, I've been a performer. I mean, when I was younger, you could find videos of me belting out to Ariel, or dressing up in a Disney princess movie, reciting lines. And I think that I was definitely born to be a performer in some way. And I knew that from a very early age, and I'm very lucky to know that, because a lot of people don't figure out what they want to do until after they're teenagers and they're out of college and they're looking for a job, or they're going to college and that's what they want to do, is they're studying at college. And I was very fortunate to have that very early in my life. But that also came with a lot of uncertainty in my family, because when you're a kid and you say you want to do something, kids don't always mean it. And my parents were very hesitant to let me pursue that career, because they didn't know anything about it. They were like, they're kids. She's a kid. She'll probably get out of it, and we'll have wasted all this time and money. And it wasn't until I turned 14 that that I really started advocating for myself, I'd say. When I was 13, almost 14, Rick Riordan, from the author of the Percy Jackson series, released an open call, and I had been following that series for a while because I really enjoyed reading, writing. I was an arts kid, and I was 13. It was still quarantine. I was writing songs in my bedroom. I was transcripting these books into scripts and singing in my room going to dance class with a mask on in a 1,000,000-degree weather. Like, it was that time, and I was eager to boost and be one of these famous child actors like I dreamed of for, at that point, almost 10 years. So I saw this open call and I was like, wait, I have blonde curly hair and bluish gray eyes. I think I could be an Annabeth. And so I spent weeks transcribing, because it said to read passage, and I was like, okay, but what if I make it into a script and learn the character that way and then read a passage? And I still have this script. I transcribed multiple passages from the first book into scripts, and I read them. I did it in front of a camera. I did it in front of all these different things. I watched so many videos learning how to self-tape, acting techniques, all of these stuff, and for weeks, months, I very much focused on making myself an actor as somebody who had no training whatsoever. Yes, I had done a theater camp through my dance studio with singing, dancing, and acting, and I was Annie when I was like 7, but it's theater, and I wanted to do TV and film, which are so different, and at the time I knew that, and so I still have the videos. I did it on 2 separate occasions. I read the passage of my scene that I had transcribed. I picked one that was my favorite, and I read it in front of the camera. And I did it once with a ring light that I had because I had begged my mom to buy me a ring light, and I was using that for TikToks and stuff because I wanted to be a star, and I was using it for TikToks, but I also used it then. And I threw my hair up in a ponytail, and I had kind of the hair out on the side like your fan art had, and I wore a like white tank top with a jacket over it and jean shorts, and I put a baseball cap on my head, a Yankees baseball cap, and I filmed myself and I sent it in, and I waited and I waited and I waited, and I heard nothing back. But since it was 2022 and I had turned 14 now, and I was like, okay, wake up, you gotta do this. You gotta start. You gotta start somewhere. And of course, it talking to my mom about getting permission to submit it, because I'm not a kid who's gonna go like out of the way to do something. Like I need the permission. I'm not a rule breaker. I talked to my mom in the car on a Wegmans trip on a very cold night. We were buying wine for my dad's friends at work. And I talked to her on the car ride home, and she said, go for it. So I submitted it. And it was pretty rough to hear nothing back. And then I think eventually I did see the cast list, and I was like, wow, I auditioned for that. That's crazy. And I was kind of at the time ashamed to tell people that. I told one person, and it kind of got out everywhere. And people asked me about it like months later, and I was like, no, I didn't. Who said that? And I most certainly did, and I have the footage. One of my friends has seen it, and that is my acting friend. Because I was like, oh my god, you have to see this. It's so funny. But regardless, having that moment where I knew somebody else got picked instead of me, it definitely gave me a sense of failure. And that was when I was like, okay, I need to figure something out. So my mom's, I don't know how exactly it happened, but my mom's friend is a studio teacher. She's worked on shows like Sydney to the Max, Head of the Class, like these crazy shows. She worked with Avatar. It's like insane. They were college sorority sisters, and my mom was still in touch with her. So something got brought up somehow, and she was like, my kid wants to act. I don't know what to do. And she was, and my teacher, still my teacher 2 years later, Miss Lauren, she was like, I got you, I'll make her a star. And October 2022, I started classes. And since then, I have been in that class. I remember joining, I was so nervous. I had no experience. I propped my computer up on like a drawer of my desk, so it was facing me, sat in a chair with a script. and everything was being thrown at me because I was jumping in the middle of class, and there was a class before that I didn't take because they just wanted to throw me in, and I was like sitting there like, I'm doing this. And the first time I ever did the scene, and I think for a while after that, every time it was my turn to do that scene, the wave of anxiety I felt was so bad. It was I remember it. I would sit there like shaking, like, I can't mess this up, I can't mess this up, I can't mess this up. And it was like a scene like you'd go over and then in a few minutes to prepare it and read it and get notes. And so we're going. I'm just doing that still. And then we get to 2023 and last summer. And that is when I was like, okay, I want to take this seriously now. I love this. It's a healing experience for me. This is what I want to do. I want to do this. Like, it was not like, oh, I'm seeing people do this, I'm doing this in my house. No, it's like, and I'm taking classes, I'm putting in the work, I want to do this. And so the discussions, my parents had a career consultation. I was so excited about it. And I was told, you need to take more classes, you need to do this, you need to do that. And my teacher, my coach was like, okay, I want your resume and I want a cover letter from you soon. And I ran up to my room that night and I wrote it within an hour, sent it off to her. And I was like so excited. And I mean, it was pretty slow there because I think I went through that period. I went through a period of time. Sophomore year was a kicker. I had a rough time in school leading up to that. And so sophomore year, I ended up with COVID in December, and I had been struggling in school with making friends and people just being mean to me. And people were being mean to me because of the most random, irrelevant things. People were mean to me because of a singer I liked. People were mean to me because I wanted to be an actor. People were mean to me because of this, because of that. It was all of these stupid things that I'm realizing now are so stupid. And people just wanted to hate and bully just for the, I don't know. But my mom talked to my psychotherapist, whoever manages your medication, because I was on a medication, yes, and I am still on that. And I was struggling with anxiety and depression really bad, and I'd gone through a lot, but one thing I always found comfort in was acting and music. And at that point in time, I didn't have dance anymore because my studio had closed. And sophomore year was like, it was like you were asleep and someone was pinching you and you weren't waking up, so instead they just whacked you in the head with a bat. And that's the best way I can describe my sophomore year experience. My mom had decided with my psychotherapist to not send me back to school because I was so miserable. I was eating lunch alone. I was having panic attacks, and it was so bad to the point where there were days where I was not eating. I passed out in school one time, blamed it on my medication, when in reality I just didn't eat. And I kind of had that going on now for a while, where I would go through these periods where I was fine, and then I would go down with my eating, or I would lay in bed for days and days and days and just feel sick and like have panic attacks and feel like I'm like going crazy and have these depressive episodes. And believe me, once I got out of that school environment and my dance environment, that was also causing me anxiety because I was being bullied there too. I realized that I was gonna get my shit together, and I was going to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to act, and I've been putting it off, and I'm just not good enough. And then I started working, and in April I auditioned for Disney, an open call. Did not hear back. I auditioned for like a type of, I don't know what to call them. They kind of just paraded their clients out to like reps, like agencies and managers and stuff. And I got accepted into that, they were very impressed, but my teacher was like, no, you need to just go straight to agents and managers. You're a strong actor. And at that time I started to get a little bit more confident because there were all of these people telling me, you're very talented. You're very talented. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. And so I enrolled instead of that client kind of company where they would push you places. I enrolled in a casting director workshop and took that, and he was very impressed with me. And I was the only kid there. Everybody else was in like their 20s, 30s. There was a man in his 70s who was so sweet. He was so funny. Yeah, it was a great experience. And that was like insane. And I made connections to the owner of the studio and the casting directors and all of these different people. And that's when I started to realize how valuable connections actually were. And then it was nearing my 16th birthday, and we're now in like June, end of June, July, and it started to get, there was kind of this voice that would yell at me like you're running out of time, but then the minute that you're turning another age is when it starts to hit. And it was screaming at me, and it still does. You're 16, you're running out of time for these childhood dreams and being a childhood actor and a childhood star, and graduating on set and doing all of these things that I dreamed of doing, and being taught instead of in a school on set and all of these things. And I started feeling that too. And so at the I still do this, obviously this was like a month ago. What I do to get rid of that, I write it down, write it in a song, compose it, write it in my journal, all of this stuff. And I wrote it down, and that song I am very proud of. I think it is one of my best songs I've ever written and composed. I wrote it on my birthday at like 1 a.m, because I had just turned 16, and I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, I haven't worked before, I haven't done anything. So at this point, I'm still waiting for maybe like a sign. I'm waiting for someone to come and help me, I guess I could say. And I just thought that like an opportunity would pop up, but I was still taking my classes, I was writing these scripts, I was doing these monologues, I was doing all of this, and I wasn't getting anything. I was growing, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled. So I decided that I was going to take it into my own hands. And so I reached out to my teacher, and I got headshots, and I got all of these things, and using my connections, I reached out to agencies. And that was 3 weeks ago. I reached out to a ton of them. I was so excited. I was basically crying as I did it. And I heard back from one of them, and they were like, okay, we'd like to set up a meeting. So I'm so excited because someone wants to represent me. My teacher, it's like, I don't think they'll be a great fit for you, but if they're your only yes, be their yes. And so I did the meeting, and they were like, hey, you don't have any experience, do you have reels? So I send them reels from stuff I did in class. These are not well prepared scenes, and after being built up in this class, they told me within 10 minutes of me sending that reel, we're not going to be moving forward with representation. And that was a punch to the gut. I pretended I was on the phone with a friend from acting who is represented by them, and my mom was outside my door, and I held it together, and I was like, oh, laughing about it. They rejected me. They rejected me. They rejected me. And that was, yeah, that was something I did not cry over it, and instead I sat with the feeling for a little while. I'm allowed to be sad, I'm allowed to feel disappointed, but then I was like, okay, they weren't a good fit anyway, there's other ones. So I reached out again a week later, 2 weeks after I initially reached out. I reached out again to most of them again, and I haven't heard back yet. But I was like thinking, and I'm thinking, since I've been rejected a week ago now, I'm thinking, and I'm like, I don't have any experience, and an agent and manager, they're gonna get me experience, but they don't. But I was rejected because I don't have any. So let me convince my parents to sign me up for Actors Access, and I'll audition for all of these things, and I'll spend my entire day auditioning, and I'll do all of these projects, get experience, and then maybe I'll have a better chance then, because it's kind of slow. I'm not really hearing anything. So that's where I'm at now. My parents are kind of discussing it, because when you're a middle-class family of 9 in like an expensive area, it is quite an investment. But I'm hoping things come out of it, and I'm hoping I hear back from some places. A lot of the things, some things a lot of people don't really talk about is the jealousy that comes with it. Oh my god, I'm not a jealous person, but it gets you going. I mean, seeing other people your age or younger be in the same place as you and absolutely flourish and have all of these opportunities and stuff, either because they had famous parents, they have a lot of money, they just got lucky, all of these things, and you're like, what is wrong with me? Like, why can't I do this? Why isn't it my turn? All of these things, and you're like, oh my god. Then the doom comes back, and you're like, oh my god, they're graduating, they're making money, they have a future. I don't even know if I want to go to college. What am I doing? And then you get to the point where you're like, okay, every journey is unique. Every journey is different. And college is a whole different. With college, I was sure that I didn't want to go to college for years, because you look at all of these actors who were children or are children, and they're childhood actors, were childhood actors, and they became famous. They didn't go to college. They didn't do that. And that's because they were working, and they had money, and they had, they had experience, and they were already famous, and their fame wasn't going to slow down, and that's why they didn't go, because they were set for life. There is a stigma, I think, around going to college and being famous and being successful and all that, because a lot of people who become famous, not everybody, but some people, they'll drop out of their high school, and some people, they won't go to college, they won't finish college, and it works out fine for them. And some other people, they'll do that, and their career is over, and they have no opportunities. And since their career is over, they need to go find another job, but they're not qualified for anything because they don't have a college diploma. They don't even have a high school diploma. And that's when I realized that you need a backup for everything. And college could, instead of taking me off the road for a few years, it could move me forward on my road. So lately I've been looking into colleges in California. I've dreamed about living in California since I was a kid. I've always wanted to live in LA. Living near New York, it definitely de-romanticized the whole city experience. Like the whole big city living. Like I have an uncle who lives in New York, and I would stay with him and overnight, and it definitely de-romanticized it. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I definitely think big city settings are for me. I think it's great, but it definitely de-romanticized it. you know, like walking around seeing the homeless people that they don't show you through pictures and Pinterest. Like, Pinterest is not trustworthy when you're looking for a place to live and you're looking for your future. You gotta get off Pinterest. When you're thinking about your future, you gotta get off Pinterest. You have to. And so New York and LA are so alike. When you think of the two biggest cities in the United States, and you think, if you ask somebody, like, name a city in the United States, they're probably gonna say New York or Los Angeles. And so I am very grateful to have grown up super close to the city, to have it all de-romanticized is the best way I could put it. I'm very grateful. And so I know that now I definitely want to live in Los Angeles. So I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna go to school. I want to apply to colleges next year when I'm when I'm a senior, because I'm going into my junior year. I want to apply to colleges that are in LA or near LA, and I look up film programs, and I'm like, oh, Loyola Marymount has a great film program. UCLA, very I'm a student with 3.9 GPA, but like, what am I gonna do? But these colleges, these degrees will look great. These will look great, because the thing about acting is you might make it big when you're 70, when you're 40, when you're 2. It doesn't matter. You never know when it's gonna explode for you. And it might not ever. But it might. And you're gonna get these opportunities at the most random times. Each door opens another. You will never open a door and just have a wall. You will always open a door and have there be another door, which is great. So I am looking into these colleges. I'm like, you know what? I want to go to college. I want to get a degree. I want to further my film and TV training. I want to further that. And what better way to do that in an award-winning college and get a degree off of it and get all of this experience on my transcripts and my resume. And that's where I am right now. That's where I am. Do I still, right now in this moment, feel that impending doom of like, you're running out of time, you're gonna be 18 in less than 2 years, what are you doing? Yeah, I do. But I have a plan. And I think that's so important. And a lot of people don't have a plan. They just kind of go with the wind. But in businesses like this that are so competitive and so big and scary and have so many layers to them, you need a plan. And so I have a plan. If you told me a few months ago that I wanted to go to college for film, I would be like, what? Like, are you crazy? Like, you want to go to college? Like, what is wrong with you? You're not. That's gonna ruin your chances. And also for me, I look younger than I actually am, and I get it all the time. All I have to do is like put my hair up, put my hair into little pigtails, keep my hair down. People think I'm younger than I am. And that's also comforting for me because, you know, with all of those child labor laws, people want to hire somebody who's over 18 and looks like they can play a high schooler or like a younger sibling. And I can do that. So I am not as worried now about running out of time. And the thing is, these days with technology and social media and all that, is at any moment you can blow up. And I've been trying for years. I've tried on YouTube, I've tried on Instagram, I've tried on TikTok, I've tried on Twitter to get famous and get my name out and get my face out. So people are like, you know, the people that like get famous and then they just have a career in whatever the heck they want. They're influencers, they become like, they have their own brands, they have all of these things, they're an actor now, they make music, all of this stuff. I'm still trying that because you know what? That's a way to do it. And it works. You have to have connections to get yourself out there. And if you're gonna, and you know what? Social media and having a platform is just one big connection rather than other individual people. But it's a big connection. It's gonna get you somewhere. So I still try a lot. I still try, and there's nothing wrong with that because, yeah, I think that when I'm an actor, I want to have a social media personality. I want to be somebody that people can relate to. I don't want to be fake. I want to be very much real and upfront, which is why I'm doing this right now. Yeah, like a lot of the things that you're going to go through, whether you want to be an actor like me, or you want to be like, you want to run your own business, we're going to run into the same obstacles, okay? We're going to run into the same obstacles. We're also going to run in completely different obstacles because we are on completely different paths. But you're not alone, because somebody else is also feeling like they're running out of time, and somebody else is also feeling like they're tired of waiting, and somebody else is also feeling like they need to pray harder at night, and all of these things. So with that, I leave you guys with the message that I have learned. Stigmas and all of that, and what people, you know, societal norms and expectations are so dumb. They're so dumb. They're so dumb. They're so dumb. And if you're gonna spend your life and go down that path trying to fit them, you're not gonna get anywhere. It's only when you take it upon yourself to actually do it and ignore the haters and cover your ears, or put in your favorite music and just run, that things are actually going to happen for you, and you're going to feel better. And you're not going to just feel better mentally and emotionally, you're going to feel better physically, and everyone around you is going to feel that as well. So thank you for listening. If you've listened all the way through, I hope this has helped you in some way, and I will see you soon. Let me be your best friend. Please subscribe, like the video. You can find me on my socials here. I hope I remember to put that in. And yeah, I hope you have a great day, and I hope this made you think. I love you all. I will see you soon. Bye. Love you.